Good morning, welcome back. It's a brilliant morning again. Let's talk about Viewpoint today, and on the Viewpoint, let's talk about media and the state, media and politics, the fourth estate versus the state or the government, if you so wish. So who is the government and who is the fourth estate? Do you know you're the government? You, yes, you watching me. You are the government, all right? But you only have to give that power, delegated power, to somebody, all right, to govern, but you are the government. So let's talk about media and politics. In the recent past, we've seen ourselves as the fourth estate facing a lot of backlash from the government or from the political class. And today I just want to take a look at where we should be drawing the line between us as the fourth estate and the politicians. Today, the politicians will hit at the fourth estate. The next minute, the fourth estate, the fourth estate will also hit back at the government, and that has brought a lot of friction, with the recent one having some journalists being injured during the Madaraka Day celebration in Homa Bay County, 4 of them to be precise. So let's talk about that. And the gentleman in studio is Ken Bosire. Ken Bosire is a long-standing journalist with so many years of experience. Amefunga tu hapa kwa sleeve. Okay. All right. Ken Bosire is a training journalist and journalist, editor, as well as a consulting editor. He has got so many titles at the same time. Good morning.
Thanks, Victor.
He's my senior in the industry.
Thanks, Victor, for having me.
Sana.
Thanks for having me, Victor.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Let's do it first of all. Let me take you through the front page of the local daily, starting with the Standard. State impunity. That is what I have on the front page of the Standard newspaper. State impunity, and the lady on the picture is Njeri. She appeared before the High Court yesterday. Rose Njeri, a software developer and a civic activist, thought that she was using her skills to educate Kenyans on the finance bill and have them register their dissent. In return, a law that targets hackers is being used to prosecute her. And now her arrest and arraignment has lawyers and critics up in arms, accusing the state of weaponizing cybercrime laws to silence digital activism and public participation. All eyes are on the judiciary on June 20th to see where hacking starts and dissent stops. That is on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Again, it's the end of an era for Nancy Macharia as she leaves TSC after 10 years at helm, and she started her terminal leave. That ends on 30th. Very fast, on the front page of the Daily Nation, unmasked faces in home buying scams. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Unmasked faces in home buying scams. There are 3 gentlemen here who are also in question. And again, Nancy Macharia there, still on the front page. And up there are 2 gentlemen. Raila takes on Ruto over brutal state crackdown. He made a statement during the Madaraka Day celebration that the people who were injured during last year's Gen Z protest should be compensated. And that apparently and allegedly has not gone so well with some of the supporters of the president. And finally, on the front page of the Star newspaper, Gachagua under fire for calling Mount Kenya MPs foolish. All right, that's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Again, we have got to hope as House team approves IEBC nominees. Finally, we can see there's some white smoke for the IEBC to be fully constituted. And then we also have Rose Njeri here. For the first time, I think we saw the former CJ, Maraga, actually appearing before the judge. All right, to represent Njeri. That was quite a spectacular. Nobody saw that coming. Ken, if you're in the newsroom and writing that story, how would you phrase it in the paper?
Maraga story.
Yes.
Interesting.
I'm just assuming. Okay. So we are here. I am so sure you've been following what's happening in the country quite keenly. But one thing that is quite common here, Ken, is that there is that push and pull between the fourth estate and the state. What is happening?
Really, the big question is really what's happening.
What's happening, right?
The question is that it appears now, it appears like now it is escalating. It has always been there. the relationship between the media and the police, the security agencies, has always been very adversarial, very hostile, because we have our duties. Those ones are trained to protect, and we are trained to seek and try and go behind the lines. So in that area of convergence, that's where the problem has been. A lot of issues. First of all, I want to send my apologies and my empathies to the people who are injured, the young people who have come into the profession, who might be traumatized, and that trauma affects their work and might even discourage others from going into the industry. It can be bad, and I think that is something that we really need to address as a country. But having said that, that the current very hostile, very toxic relationship between the media and the state has a background. The government that is in place now, the Kenya Kwanza government, came into office with a very clear message, with the feeling and with the mindset that the media was always against them. So that has permeated through the ranks, that these people have never supported us. So that already set the stage for what you're seeing as what we call state hostility towards the media. But the media has also, it's been a bigger landscape, that the media is now operating in a very plural kind of setup. We are more in the industry, because we are more, it's not name recognition or institution representative. We have got a plethora of what we call citizen journalists, independent people, bloggers. So in one single day, in one single event, you can have as many as 60 journalists covering the same event, jostling for the same space. Even within the media space itself, there is jostling for that space. But the policing, the template for policing and managing media has remained the same, largely. Media has changed. We are not using the recognizable equipment that we used to use. Today you have a phone. I'm done. So am I taking a selfie? Am I recording something?
Yeah.
So those things are still very confusing to those police people. And that's engagement that we need to have. And the mindset. But looking at the headlines, looking at the reactions, looking at what police are saying, and the silence from the people who are perpetrators of violence and harassment against police. They're silent, but we are talking. That means, are we talking to people who are listening? Are we talking to people who are giving us a contemptuous silence?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what worries me. It looks like already the battle lines are drawn. You're there, it's us versus this person. And this is what worries me, that yet we all have a duty to seek information and get what we need. And somebody has to play a facilitative role instead of being a hindrance or a hurdle towards the media getting information or getting access to what we call, because the access is very core to what we call media press freedom. And the public has a right to know. So if that information is not brought out, then the public does not know. And that is already an infringement, is an offense to the Constitution. When you're talking about the articles that entrench media freedoms and also entrench the existence of media as a country.
We all know that we've existed, even the Bible. Waandishi wa habari, we are in the Bible.
Yes.
Right? One of the oldest professions. But is it that whenever we articulate the 5 W's and 1 H, somebody's not comfortable with that?
Truth is always going to be uncomfortable to the powers that be, because you're going into their space and you're exposing for what they are not. I remember the advantage of history. In the KANU days, there was the late Mulu Mutisa KANU Supremo in Machakos, and God rest his soul in peace. So, he one time said media people were so useless that the people of no character of anything, that were just conceived and born by the roadside.
Wow.
That shows you that this hostility has existed, and how we make it toxic and expand it and escalate it is the problem. We'll always be operating in an adversarial position. But we have to recognize that we all have a constitutional right to do what we have a duty. And this space, we have to know how to manage it. It's like in a marriage where you may have divergent interests, but you have to find a point of convergence, agreeing this has to be done. However uncomfortable it is, truth, you can't hide it. It will come out. And when it comes out, there's bound to be reactions. And politicians love to operate in a place where there is darkness, where they can do things without being spotlighted. And because of our spotlighting, will make them very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They squirm in their seats, and the only reaction would be, instead of engaging, they would try and squash you. Because if you can't manage me, the thing would be to silence me. And they're using a real big stick. So I think it behoves all of us, to the authorities, to have more engagement in terms of what we can. We need to talk. How do we, for example, assign today from the newsroom? Who is your editor? If you're going out there and you find a situation that you are not getting access, do you have somebody who can also speak above you and say, this person has this is the assigning editor, can we do this? So that also has changed, because some of us are...
Why has it changed? Are we having kind of liberal mindsets in the newsroom?
Not just liberal. The media itself is not as defined as it was. We are pluralistic. We have expanded. We have the single media ownership, where you are the owner of the media, you are the editor, you are the reporter, and everything else. So the structure in itself has been disrupted by what we call technology and expansion of the media. So that responsibility across the things of saying, I can intervene on your behalf if there is this element, it's not there. You just have to intervene for yourself. Also, the level of engagement as well. If it was going to cover, for example, Madaraka Day, we had a way that we would always know that the media will have access through this gate. But now they are entering with the crowd. They are mixing with the crowd. So is it that nobody cares that the media will be here? Do the organizers know that there will be a media that we need to enable the access, or they can just come with the crowd that is crashing into the stadium? If they crash with the crowd, then they're going to get caught up in the shoving and pushing. And then the police will not see you as a media, they will see as a crowd coming in. And then the crowd control sets in. So where does you draw the professional line? So that there is a professional between the fourth estate and the other side, either the state, the public, or politics, whichever side it may be. I think for us as a profession, we have our reactions. I'm really saying this with a lot of pain, that a lot of, we have tended to be very responsive, very reactive. An incident happens, the first thing is a condemnatory statement, almost like a template. You know they will start like this, they will end like this, and condemn and call for action. Do we, because we know that the basic thing, that security starts with you when you're out there in the field. If you know you're going into a place that is going to imperil your life, the first thing is to do, how do I place myself? How do I gain interest? And that needs training. That is training right from the newsroom, from the assigning editor, and to the larger groups that are also condemning. Are we investing enough in training our journalists on how to cover hostile and likely escalating situations? That for me is a worry. I remember the Media Council used to have a lot of courses on training on safety. And the stress was always the line. Safety starts with you. Don't wait to get hurt so that we can... No story is worth your life. We can't wait to get hurt and then say, I was injured while carrying this. Try as much as you can to be safe so that you can get that story. 2, we need to move beyond condemnation. Just before we move on, safety would mean even emotional safety. Psychological safety. Psychological safety. Everything. The physical safety. Everything. It's a whole 360 thing. Because if you go, look at a situation where, for instance, like now the media, we all know that there is what we call welfare issues. If I have not paid my rent, if I've not eaten, if I've not been paid, and you deploy me to a situation like that, my emotional stability is likely to be affected. So how do I react to a policeman who stops me? The cop is probably also not well remunerated, he's tired. So the welfare issue is also playing into this. You're sending people out there who are already themselves existing in very, very difficult circumstances. The operating environment is difficult. Where you're going to work is also becoming difficult. So what do you expect? You're going to expect an explosion of these emotions and hostilities. So that is very, very important. Allow me to take you back now. Where is the professional line drawn? Because when, for example, you
with the recent incident, Madaraka Day celebration in Homa Bay County, a couple of journalists were injured. So what really happens in that situation? A police officer or security agents are supposed to do their work professionally as they have been given that order during that event. So where do you draw that professional line?
This is
because the relationship is quite complex.
It's very complex because this person is also very tense.
Right.
It's very tense. And you also probably not, you want to get there. Do we take time? Do we understand? That's why we say prior arrangements will enable us to engage and say, these are the number of people, facilitate for us our entry, and this happens. I know some of the policemen are also, some of the state security agencies are also overshooting their lines, they're overreacting, but they should be able to respect. But the thing is, once we should now know the professionalism that you're talking about. This is a professional, train them, and we know our professional ethics and how to do the work. And it's important for us that, for us to call out, because it's not every police officer who is going out to attack journalists. We can go out and single them and begin to say, if I get into the unfortunate element where I'm being attacked, do I identify the officer? What do I do after that? Because we have to call out, hold these officers to account. You can't say it's the entire police force, the police service that is attacking everybody. There's that particular officer X who attacked you, who went out of his way to infringe on your rights and hobble your professional work. Single him out. What do you do when you have been done this? For example, in the Madaraka Day incident, how many of those cases have been documented? Have they gone to the police and made an OB so that there is a particular line of action that an officer, the others will be used as an example and insist that this officer is the one. You know, you can sue them individually. Yeah? You don't have to sue the entire police force. I can say, Victor Ken Bosire, you attacked me while I was on duty and you're on duty for no justifiable reason. I will sue you. And I can sue you as an individual and take, so that these things, it's time for us to begin to have accountability mechanisms, both individual and as the service. And the media can get together and say, I know in the past we have had cases, but we have also run into issues where they tell you, was this matter reported? Was a P3 form taken? And then the evidence, the whole process fails because we've not followed through.
But it seems that when there is this push and pull between the two bodies, it's like there is some kind of benefits that both parties are getting. Because the media will highlight what happened to them, and the government will also say, this is us, they're getting more popularity.
I doubt. The person who suffers here is the public. Because the public then does not get the information. Then we get into war. We become like two little elephants fighting. And the grass is the one that, because we have a public duty. This police officer who is there has a right to protect the public, to ensure law and order. But we also have a right to get information within that ecosystem so that we can inform the public. We all, the common denominator here is the public good. For the good of the public. If we get into fighting, then the public suffers. So I don't think any one of them is getting anything. It's a very unfortunate situation that begin to speak very badly towards our democracy and towards our development as a society. Because we should be able to work together in civility. We should be able to facilitate each other. Why are we fighting? Then that means we are losing focus on our core mandates as journalists, and we're engaging. Because if we take a whole of page 1 to write about police hostility, when are we going to write about this story that was unfolding?
Okay. When you look at how the entire journalism and the media operates, there's a space, a safe space for them to operate. But then now, when you look at the agenda setting, hours to inform, to educate, and all that, but then now, there comes a point where you find the political class trying to override the professionalism of the media. So, is it beyond redemption, the relationship between these two bodies?
We have to call, it's not beyond redemption, we have called ourselves to order. It's important that we know we serve the public. But the mindset of a politician is to try and hide whatever they do. And for us is to bring out what they do and to limelight, to hold them accountable. And there's nothing a politician hates more than being held to account. And they will try and fight and protect that space. But what is interesting, Victor, that you talk about safety of journalists, and the relationship between them and the state. There's an emerging trend where we have now what we are calling the public themselves turning on the media. The public turning on the media. You've had case incidents where the public has turned against the media, where they've said, we don't want you here because of our political alignment. We don't want you to cover this because of whether they belong to certain groupings.
Yes.
So we have had goons hired by politicians or interest groups to attack the media because they want to hide whatever. For example, there was this recent incident where we had the launch of one of the parties. The media covered the clash between the two. But at the core of it, nobody wanted to be highlighted. What was the trigger of that fight was the distribution of the money among the youth.
Yeah.
It escalated, but when the media captured that, those guys set upon the media because they didn't want that to come out. Because what was the trigger of the fight? Were they people hired to throw stones? Or were they people fighting over resources, political resources? So this is the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to come out. So the media becomes the enemy. They will whip the public, they will whip other people. The media will always find itself because we sit above all these guys to hold them to account, and we're always watching. And when we watch, we tell the public this is, and this injures the interests of the politician who would rather operate in darkness and do things the way they want to do, to perpetuate evils so that nothing.
Are the two bodies fighting for trust from Wanjiku? The political class fighting for trust, the media is also fighting for trust.
We have never fought for trust. The public trusts us. The person who has a trust deficit is the politician. The politician and the state is always held. Any institution, the state has to work harder to try and gain the public trust. And how do they gain it? By being open and working with the media, telling their story and letting us spotlight them and hold them to accountable. That's the only way they can gain public. But the media, in all things, is the most trusted institution in our national setup. That people trust and believe in what we say because we have a duty to tell the public. We are divesting, we divest from the nitty-gritty of what we call the little fightings for space and power and money and graft. That's not our space. Our space is news. Our space is spotlight. Tell the story, inform, educate, and speak truth to power.
Yeah.
And that is our duty. So the public, without the public, they say that democracy will die in darkness. So we have a duty to hold the candle and spotlight that democracy is being served, practiced, and
So let me ask you, both sides, how can they operate harmoniously? Because for us, as you said, we speak truth to the power. The 5 Ws and 1 H will remain constant in our training. And we all know this, when a dog bites a man and when a man bites a dog. So where do we balance so that nobody is injured or caught in the crossfire?
The first thing is Victor, is to know that we have to accept that the relationship between the state, the powers that be, and the media will always be adversarial. There will always be a point of disagreement, but disagree because we have different roles as we serve the public. We will do that. But there is also now a new discussion that is coming into play. Public interest, that is our duty. But again, even on our side, we have also to say, are we doing public interest journalism or journalism that interests the public? The two are different. Are you doing something to get the crowds, to get the clicks and everything else? Or are we doing something that is for public interest? So that is also another debate that we as professionals have to begin to interrogate. Public interest and interesting to the public. Those are two very interesting discussions that are now coming into this thing. Do I do something because I want to interest the public and pull crowds? Because we are all fighting for audiences, fighting for likes and all these clickbaits. Or are we doing something because this is a fact and we are spotlighting it? And
can we make it better between the two places? I mean, the media is here and the other side is on the other side. Can we make it better?
I think there's been an effort by especially, remember the Kenya Editors Guild and other, through the Kenya Media Working Sector Group, where there's been engagement with the police, especially the police, because they're the first line people that we meet in any event. They're the ones who have a duty to maintain law and order. They're the visible face of that law and order enforcement. So we've had engagements, we've had people going to train to tell the police how the media operates so that they understand our ecosystem and our operations.
Yeah.
People have gone to Kiganjo and interacted with the senior police officers, especially at the command level, so that the command level, in their training, in their interaction, in their deployment, they're telling people, media is not your enemy. Media operates like this. You play a facilitative role. So we have also done on our side, trained a lot of trainings on safety, on how do you operate, how do you cover hostile situations, how do you cover in crowded places, remain safe, get the story. So the training on both sides, there's been a lot of engagement.
Is it from KEG, MCK, or individual media houses?
All the media institutions have done a lot of, are trying to engage. But again, these engagements, the problem is that they are staccato. They come, they're not continuous. They must be having a continuous thing. This happens this time, it's no follow through with this kind of trainings and engagement. We need to have more deliberate steps and setups that allow the media themselves and these state agencies to define. Sometimes these reactions are born out of ignorance.
Okay, as we finalize, you've been on that desk for so many years. Can we avoid being biased and leaning on one side? They say newspaper X or Y leans is biased.
A little bug.
Is it avoidable?
Yes, because a fact will always be fact. If there are facts and we follow your professional ethics, you'll bring out the facts. The fact, there's one thing unchanging thing. It's a fact and truth that will be told out. Yes. How you tell it is different. But the perception, but we now know that there are other variables that make for us to tell the fact in a different way. Entrepreneurial interests. Yes. Ownership, because the people who invest in media themselves, unfortunately in this country, the people who invest in media, most of them are politicians. They have political interests. So, and again, that makes the situation very murky. If they know X is leaning on this political formation and this political formation, already the suspicion begins to build. So media ownership, entrepreneurial interests, and then in the industry that expands, how do we begin to get more people to do what we call ethical fidelity, to adhere to it?
Thank you.
And that's very, very important on
Asante
our part.
sana.
Right.
You are the face behind Stephen Munyaho, the gentleman in Ugaibuni. In 30 seconds, everything is okay now?
We are very many of us, and I wish to say that Stephen's case is proceeding well. What is going through now is what we call the legal frameworks that are being unwound. This young man...
For the sake of people who do not know Stephen Munyaho, his story?
The young man has been incarcerated in Saudi for 14 years and was on death row. And he was hung because out of an altercation, an accidental thing that his friend died, and then he was convicted. But we were given an option to raise blood money to secure his release. That money was paid, and now we are in the process of bringing him back home.
Soon he'll be back home.
We hope that we'll see him back home.
Thank you. Ken Bosiri. Asante sana. Ken Bosiri is consulting and training editor. Today we just talk about media and politics. Where do we draw the professional line? We've been facing a lot of fireworks from the other side of the political class, and I think that is going to go a long way in helping to shape that. All right, let's take a break, but we come back. I want to talk about things to do with accreditation, and today I want to talk about Kenya Accreditation Service, which will be happening next week, marking World Accreditation Day. That is WAD on Monday, and the theme will be enabling SMEs through accreditation. Stick around for that. That is coming up shortly after this break. Stay with us.